heck, I'm getting attacked again. What happened all over again? Deja vu. I think I'll take this. Take him, just drown him in some of that precious amber. That'll sort him out.
It'll preserve him forever.
It will. Get some of that DNA action going.
I know, DNA.
So we're talking about some more dinosaur-related things this week. I'm getting better at remembering what the hell we're talking about week to week, and I'm fairly sure it's was it Seinfeld? No, there wasn't a lot of dinosaurs in Seinfeld, I don't think. But I think we're on the right track. We got old Newman.
Yeah, Newman
on the right track here. Does look familiar. Maybe he's incognito. Could be Newman, AMC show. Very exciting, very sexy show. A lot of smoking, drinking going on. But a bit of a telltale ID tag hanging off his coat there. No, it's not this one here, which is an actual quote from somebody in 1994. This is not made up. I mean, the images, but the quote. I saw this movie twice, but my friend also saw it from school and that, but not on the same day. And when he saw it, it's pretty much the same week, he came and told me, he goes, there was a guy in the movie who, when he saw the dinosaurs, he yelled out, "This is so fake. You can see the wires. It should be called your plastic park." Like, it's CG, you moron, and puppetry. There were no fucking wires. we laughed about it for years just because this idiot yelled this out at the cinema for everyone to hear.
Yeah, I just noticed the two lads in the corner there.
Oh yeah, some of them are trying to get out of there quick in that Jeep.
Well, look, last week we spoke about the toys, a little bit about the merch, but now we're here for the movie. The thing that I was going to say, the thing that started it all, but it's not really the thing that started it all. That would be the book, the novel. Yeah.
But the novel got sold before it was even published, so there you go. They optioned the rights for the film before the book was published, so they kind of fast-tracked that one.
Did you ever read the novel?
No, I'm not a novel reader. I'll read comics all day, but I find even the best novels in the world, I just find them boring. I don't like too much description. I prefer like fast-moving action and dialogue. So that's why I prefer films. I've probably read 3 or 4 novels in my life, whereas I've read, I don't know, thousands of non-fiction books.
It's very different.
Yeah. I haven't looked up differences recently, but I remember years ago reading about the differences and stuff.
I wouldn't kind of say, oh well, look, the novel is better than the movie, or the movie is better than the novel. It really just depends on what your vibe is for that type of thing. It's kind of like Jaws and The Shining and other movies that kind of had famous novels, kind of tied together with them. It's sometimes hard to definitively say, is the story better on screen than it is on paper. Like with Jurassic Park,
there's more science and jargon in the novel, I would think.
There is, and there's a few differences to the rules which characters play. Like some characters have a less significant role than they do in the movie, and whereas others are more kind of at the forefront. You see, for me, I watched the movie many years and many times before I read the book. So in my mind, I think just for me, the movie will always be like core lore. Like like what you see on screen is kind of what it is in my mind, even if it's not necessarily 100%, accurate to the source material.
I think that's a good mix as a genre movie of science fiction and horror. And there's a lot of Jaws DNA in this film, and a lot of Spielberg style stuff where he's really at his best, I think.
Yeah, I think from watching it in the cinema, and like yourself, I have a similar kind of memory of going to see this multiple times. I know, like, I'm probably like a few years younger than you, maybe. So you were in your teens. I was kind of just coming into my teens.
Yeah,
But
I
this,
was, let's see, 1994. This was out in 93 in America for the record, but New Zealand, it was 94 because it was going into January, February, the new year, or it might have been December, but it was, I think it was January 94. So I was 14 when I saw this.
yeah, I was so, my mind was just blown. I was
Step up from
staying.
the old Roger Corman and 65 million BSBC and all that.
Oh, oh, completely. And like, because I was a real dinosaur kid. Like in primary
That's why I
school, I
wanted to
actually
see
had.
it, because of the, not just because it was special effects, but because I liked actual science and actual dinosaurs. That's what excited me.
I was a total dinosaur nerd. Like, I was actually kind of made fun
Hmm.
of a little bit in school when I was really young for being like totally enamored with dinosaurs. It was
See,
kind of like
when I
one
was real
thing.
young, all the kids were reading the same kind of crap. But when, ages 5 through 10, so we're like, everyone loves dinosaurs. But then at age 12, 14, I'm still reading about dinosaurs. But now the kids have
I
moved
was
on.
very I was very fortunate. So I was staying with my aunt who lives in County Longford. It's kind of a county in the Midlands here in Ireland, and me and my sister would go down and stay in the summertime. And I remember she was bringing me out to the cinema just to placate me and pass some time. And
Mhm.
when we got to the cinema, there was two kind of big movie posters, and I had to kind of decide which movie I wanted to go see.
What was the other one?
The other one was Super Mario
Pikachu goes
Brothers.
blind.
Yeah, I almost went into the Bob Hoskins Super Mario.
Oh, I saw that too, actually. But
Almost.
Jurassic Park, I paid myself. Super Mario, I did actually see because a friend of mine's, or one of my, when I was a kid, my dad was friends with his other parent, and they're boys that we knew from a very young age because we used to board together when we were about 4 or 5 when we started school. So we knew them for years and years. And I'd been to movies with them quite a few times. So their mother paid, as well as paid for us to go into video game arcade and stuff like that. So that's the only reason I saw Super Mario Brothers, because someone else paid for it.
Well, I'm glad I made the decision I did. And it's funny you mentioned earlier there was this is still back in the day where you would have a difference in release date, like a significant difference depending on what part
Yeah,
of the
about
world
6 months
that you're
from
living
America
in.
to New Zealand. Yeah.
And Europe was something similar. There was that big gap of time. But
Sometimes
one
it'd be a
thing that
whole year
really,
before something would come out.
I'll tell you what really blew my mind though as a kid was coming back to school and being in school for a few months after this movie had been in the cinemas over here. And then a guy in my class came back from a family holiday in the States, and he had a brand new VHS copy of Jurassic Park. So
Oh,
he was actually given permission by the teacher to bring the video into school so we could all watch it in class. And like, that just blew my mind that we were able to watch this movie that we'd only just seen in the cinema a few months ago, and we were
that's
already
awesome.
watching it on video. Because usually there'd just be a massive gap in time between seeing something in the cinema and being able to watch
Yeah.
it on video.
Spoiler alert, we're going to be seeing that VHS, but released a bit later. Yeah,
Yeah, I just
that's
love this
awesome.
movie.
Like,
Yeah, it was such a treat. It was such a treat. Like, I was so, like I mentioned in last week's episode when we were talking about the toys, like, I was already just so deep into the dinosaurs, and Jurassic Park was just this, like, it was almost like this stamp of approval. It was like pop culture is officially
yeah,
saying what you like is cool.
it's like when they made the Transformers movie, except this was actually a good movie. It's like, say, here's this
Exactly.
thing you like. It's all nerdy and geeky and like that, but it's not shit. It's good.
Yeah, mind was blown. And like you're saying, had never seen anything that looked like this. Any any kind of dinosaurs or even close. Like, you're talking about those old, yeah, movies where
Like
it's like
hand
the old,
puppets and stop motion and wires.
yeah, you know, Journey to the Center of the Earth, where they have like a poor iguana lizard with like
And I love
spikes
those
and
movies. I'm not
super glued.
knocking Suit Monsters or stop motion. I love all that stuff too.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But Jurassic Park really did take us into the modern world. Ironically enough, when it
Yeah,
comes to these prehistoric creatures, it was just like
it's
wow.
it's funny. Earlier today, I was thinking about that stupid quote from the moron in the cinema about the wires, and I could see all this, and I keep thinking, you know, if you had an actual marionette of Dr. Grant and an actual marionette of a T-Rex, that would make a cool little short film. What's a dialogue in it? Have them acting out, that would be awesome.
I just love that we were you know, so it's like our second kind of episode now talking about Jurassic related stuff. And you're
Yeah,
telling me
Jurassic
about
Dawn
this.
Part 2.
There's this arsehole who said that quote that you just read out. But then I'm also reminded of the other arsehole that you told me about from when you went to see it in the cinema, who sat in the
Yeah.
wrong seat and then
Oh
wouldn't
yeah,
move.
yeah. The other guy. That was because the quote was from when my friend saw it, so I wasn't there, but he told me about it that week, and I remember it to this day. And we've laughed about it many times. The point of like laughing so hard we can't breathe and coughing and falling on the floor, kind of laughing. But yeah, there was this big like tubby guy and like well, funnily enough, pretty much a Newman Wayne Knight sized guy who barely fit in the seat. And it was absolutely packed cinema, like packed, like completely full. I don't know, 50, 100 people, however many seats are in there, because it's dark. I don't know how many bloody seats are in there. Completely packed, and you just sat in wherever, which is fine when it's a half empty thing. You just sit wherever you want and don't worry about it. But when it's full, you got to do your assigned seating. And back then, this is at the multiplex in Christchurch, Hoyts 8, which got pretty much destroyed in the earthquakes years ago. And it was it used to be an old railway station, so the building's about 100 years old. But so the movies there would sell out like every week, and there was lots of movies out. You know, I watched, I don't know, Clear and Present Danger there, or anything with, you know, bloody Harrison Ford and whatnot. And I'd go there every week watching stuff, and movies would sell out regularly. So you knew you had to sit in your actual seat because it's going to fill up, and then the lights turn off, and everyone's trying to shuffle around the dark and trip over each other. And the poor usher had to come in, who's some like 12-year-old bloody kid with a torch, go, "Excuse me, mister, can you move, please? Someone can't get in this." Because they couldn't find the one other empty seat, because this one guy sat the wrong place. The last person coming in couldn't find the empty seat in the dark of 100 seats or whatever. And they tried to get the guy to move, and he just goes, he crosses his arms like this and sits back and goes, "I'm not fucking moving." And the guy's like, "You're going to have to move, please, because it's full." When the movie started, he's like, "I'm not fucking moving," and like screams it out. And I was like, oh my God, this big tubby man is going to like destroy this little child stick boy any second. But so, yeah, it was a weird situation. I felt bad for the usher kid.
Yeah, you have to feel for those dudes doing that job. It's a thankless job,
Yeah.
especially back in the day where nobody really paid attention to your allocated seat.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to sit in the middle when it wasn't full. I'd go middle row, middle, up and down. And it was the right height in that particular one to see the screen really well.
Yeah, like when I went into this, apart from the general knowledge of knowing that there would be dinosaurs in the movie, I did not have a clue what I was going to watch. I had no idea about what the plot
Yeah,
was.
neither
I
do I.
think I had watched maybe one or two kind of short TV trailers that just happened to be on TV at the time. So really just had no idea what the story was going to be about, what the setup was going to be, and it was just mind blowing to experience it for the first time. It was just
Yeah, it was. What's
unbelievable.
for me? But yeah, we'll jump into
And
these
again,
first
yes,
scenes here, and then get into more of the plot in a minute, because funnily enough, the movie explains quite a bit of the plot in the first scenes anyway. So it starts off, we see the island, and we see the characters outside of it, like enclosure, and they've all got protective gear on, and we can see there's some kind of creature or something inside that cage, and they've got a big electric cattle prods. But we don't exactly, I mean, if you've seen the trailers, you're expecting dinosaurs, but you don't really see what's happening. There's a bit like, you know, aliens or whatever. It's a bit of hinting at creatures we're going to see later on. Then we see somewhere in presumably South America, wherever, the guy's coming in on the little raft, and the Gennaro, whatever guy, investor, I forget if he's an investor or a lawyer or whatever the heck he is, but they're checking out the site, and we see the guy holding up the little amber fossilized thing with the mosquito in it, which is what they extract DNA from to create these hybrid clone dinosaurs. And then we see Dr. Grant, played by New Zealand's own Sam Neill, fantastic actor. I've watched him in pretty much everything he's ever been in, really. See him as Dr. Grant here as a paleontologist, and along with is it Laura Dern? I always often confuse her with the other actress. Yeah, often confuse her with another Laura. Anyways, they're both paleontologists, and they're at a dig site, and we get Dr. John Hammond, played by Richard Attenborough, comes in saying, "You've got to come and visit my island resort," and they're like, "Whatever, we're busy doing our actual job. Why are you here wasting our time?" And that leads into the next part here, where we get a little close up here of Miguel Sandoval, who's been in many things, including like X-Files and Lois and Clark TV shows. He was in Medium. He's in probably several hundred movies and dozens of 90s TV shows, and in the 80s and 2000s. The other fun thing, which I didn't realize until today, is that Martin Ferrero, who plays the Gennaro guy who gets famously eaten on the toilet by the T-Rex, was the highly irritating guy, but called Izzy in Miami Vice, who was, he's a very good character actor. He does all sorts of weird costumes and stupid voices in that show. But I had no idea it was the same guy until today, even though I've watched a lot of Miami Vice and I've watched this movie so many times, which is a testament to how good an actor he is. He's just that different. He's a real, almost kind of comic type actor as well. He's very clownish, but then he can be serious as well, and really changed his mannerisms, the way he does things is very good.
Yeah, he's like you said, he's quite the character actor, and yeah, in Miami Vice, you just want to punch him in the face. He's just a really
he gets he's in that show a lot, especially the latest seasons.
I think you're asking there what is kind of, I suppose, his role is. I think technically, as far as the plot goes, he is a lawyer who represents investors or potential investors.
That's it. That's why I couldn't quite remember one or the other, because it makes more sense. I remember when I was watching it back then, but like you forget the minor details years later. And even though I've watched this film less than 6 months ago, I watched all of the Jurassic Park films pretty much in a row one weekend. But yeah, here we see Wayne Knight, who plays Dennis Nedry, also famously was Newman on Seinfeld, of course, doing a lot of his similar acting with his weird, uncontrollable giggling, where he seems to be very proud of his nefarious achievements. And he smuggled this little shaving canister, which has a secret compartment on the bottom, and it's got DNA that he's going to presumably sell to some other rival geneticists who are going to make their own versions of Jurassic Park, or use them as, I don't know, soldiers or monsters of war, or whatever they want to do with them. And it's pretty much that scene is one of the key things that leads into virtually all the sequels, really.
Yeah, that's right. The whole plot to acquisize this dino DNA. But yeah, it's a very funny scene when Dodson goes to give Dennis the implements he's going to be using to smuggle the DNA out of the park. So yeah, he has the little can of Barbasol, and it's got the fake bottom so you can screw it off, and there's going to be spaces there to keep all the dino embryos cold so we can sneak them past security and get them into the hands of this nefarious company. Yeah, but he's so funny, Dennis. He's testing the can to see if it actually works, and it sprays out some of the shaving foam, and he just takes a handful of it and puts it on top of somebody's pie. It's like
his matter of the great, like
he's so funny. He's so funny. Yeah, a total scumbag, but I love him.
Yeah, he's great. And we get the helicopters flying into Isla, is it Nublar, and which is I forget exactly where, but I think it's like off the coast of South America, whatever. Like, you've got the fictional one, but then obviously they used actual real locations and whatnot. And they've used, by now, I'm not early films, first three, they've used several different island locations and that, like semi-tropical type islands, and as well as inland areas. As they fly in and they land in the park here, and we've got the old Jeeps with the Jurassic Park logo on the side, and they think they're kind of going to see this is Hammond's resort park, but it's sort of in progress. It's not ready for the public yet, so they're kind of getting a behind the scenes thing. And Dr. Grant and Ellie Sadler don't really know what they're in for. They think they're just going to see a bit of, maybe this could be an interesting thing down the track. They're not expecting to see any actual dinosaurs or nothing like that.
Yes, and they're in for quite the shock. This is also where we were first introduced to Dr. Ian Malcolm, played by Jeff Goldblum, who
I love Jeff Goldblum.
He's so good. He's so good, and he's smoozing with everybody on the helicopter. He's flirting with Dr. Ellie Sattler right in front of Dr. Grant.
There's so many memes now about him from this movie, like based on the kind of shirtless scenes and him with a leather jacket.
Yeah, he's a bit smarmy, but he's also incredibly funny, and great character, Dr. Ian Malcolm.
And great, of course, excellent actor. I do really like Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum, two actors I've watched at least 80% of any films I've ever been on and enjoy them.
Yeah, we see our first proper, because even though at the beginning of the movie we just get to see maybe like an eye or a claw here and there when you're looking at the raptor in the cage, here now we get our first proper visual special effect of a dinosaur, the Brachiosaurus, kind of in full form. And I think, like a lot of other people,
I just have to look up like this. There's because my one's up there, so I can do just like the scene.
Yeah, I actually when we were talking about the toys last week, I managed to get a Popo version of this exact one with the same coloring and everything. It's obviously a lot smaller than the Mattel one, but still it's a pretty cool figure. But yeah, I was blown away at this the very first time I laid eyes on it. Like these days, obviously you've watched the movie hundreds of times, you know exactly what to expect, you know exactly what's coming, but it really can't be understated how visually impressive this was to see at the time back in the day.
Yeah, on the big cinema screen, and the musical score kicks in, has a real kind of uplifting emotional beat to it that really drives it home.
Yeah, it just all comes together perfectly, and it's an excellent way to kind of, even from like a character perspective, like Dr. Grant, Dr. Sattler, Ian Malcolm, Gennaro, they're all just instantly shocked into the reality of, wow, this guy has got dinosaurs on an island.
Yep. And it turns out he's a bit of an irresponsible kook, as we'll find out as the film goes on.
Get to see the awesome visitors center for the first time.
Yeah,
this place
there's so much great stuff in that visitor center, man. Like as I was doing the stills of this today, I was sitting on my same computer screen I'm at now, and I'm closer than at the TV, so I'm seeing the finer details in there. There's so much cool stuff in there. Like they got the full, you got the Jeeps, the entryway, all the cool fossil skeletons on the walls. I mean, they're like fake ones because it's a visitor center. They'd be like plaster or whatever, or concrete. And then you get the awesome banner about dinosaurs and rule the earth. You got the big T-Rex skeletons that come in. There's so much amazing production value in these sets here. So much, they must have built a hell of a lot for this, because it looks like a real tourist center and a real visitors center building. There's just so much they made for it. It's incredible.
Yeah, if you ever visited any type of tourist center or heritage center or anything like that, especially in the 90s,
last month.
Yeah, like especially in the 90s, the interior of them, it all kind of looked like this, except for all the cool dinosaur related stuff. But
all they had were friendly quokkas on Rottnest Island. There was no dinosaurs. They didn't attack me or anything.
It's cool that we actually also get to see here, kind of like a little bit of what the inner workings of a theme park visitors center would be, especially on way to one that's kind of going towards a grand opening, because even when they walk through the door, you see that there's still a lot of like workmen and tradespeople who are still literally like finishing off this actual building. Like you can see everything's being ramped up for a grand opening, and they're just trying to iron out a few kinks now with some test visitors to see how
Yeah.
everything goes down.
And
We got
there's
our great little video as
film in
well
the
of
film.
Mr.
Yeah.
DNA. So
The little
good.
cartoon animation, the dinosaurs, mosquito, the little DNA guy explaining how the fossilized amber from the mosquito sucks some blood. They get stuck in tree sap, which became amber and fossilized, and the DNA in the blood was trapped inside their body, and that's what they've extracted out and used as the basis for their dinosaur clone experiments. And they also filled in some of the gaps from other types of reptiles where they didn't have a full DNA profile. They filled in stuff from other creatures that exist now, whether it's like a Komodo dragon or alligator or crocodile, whatever, which explains why they are sort of hybrid mutant dinosaurs. And then in the later films, they start messing with the DNA and trying to bring in certain traits and take out others, and that's why you get like even more kind of mutant weird ones in Jurassic World.
Yeah, it's probably the type of thing that if an actual knowledgeable qualified scientist is watching it, they're probably like, what a load of bullshit. But to be honest with you, for the viewing audience, it's a very just not simplistic, but it's a very explainable and logical thing that you could
It
believe
makes
is
sense for the
possible.
fiction.
Yeah, and it's something that, without looking into it too much, and especially, when you consider that in the late 90s and that, when they actually did start cloning sheep and things like that, it's not a million
Yeah,
miles away from what was possible and what could still be possible.
yeah. But there was a while in the 90s after this film where there's articles like going, we're going to get a real Jurassic Park any day now. I'm like, keep dreaming, idiots. It's not happening.
Well, as soon as it happens, I'll go there.
Yeah, and I will
I'll take the risk.
pay for I'll pay for your funeral, Mark, in the search for your body.
Yeah, it'd be a cheap funeral because there'll only be like a few like bones, like a femur or
Giblets.
something. Yeah. Dino DNA. Yeah, I just love the whole little cartoon. Oh, that's a great shot. Beautiful shot of the brachy.
Yeah, the
And
old
that's the thing.
giraffes of the ancient world.
This movie, there's so many times where you can just take a still shot from it, and it just looks magnificent. Because
Oh
don't get me
yeah, put
wrong,
on a
like
postcard,
sometimes
stuck on the fridge.
like it's been, whatever, 30 years, 40 years, like I don't know, 30 years anyway. The movie's pretty old at this point, and sometimes when you're watching it, not that much, but there are times when you can kind of go, oh, I can see that CGI is like 90s CGI, or it's dated just a
I
little
think
bit.
this
But
CGI
you,
looks great. You could say the compositing with the mixing of the layers that sometimes can look a little janky now if you're looking on a big HD TV or something. But I think mostly it still stands up. And like this film is kind of the linchpin, the beginning of the modern era of CG films. There was stuff before this, of course, but there were basic computer graphics and whatnot. But the innovations in the animation and computer animation had come a long way that really made the dinosaurs in this possible. They did start out trying to do completely different stuff in the early stages of this film and then scrapped it all and basically redid it when they realized how far along the computer animations had come.
they originally wanted to go all puppets and animatronics, and
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, they switched it up. But even I know it might sound like I was being a bit snide there, saying you can see some of the CGI is dated. Overall, the film still looks brilliant. And even when you take, a still shot like this, it's a very realistic looking effect. Like if I didn't know that this was a shot from a movie, you could be convinced that I'm looking at an actual living, breathing creature here.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they're
they
doing the
did get
same
the
thing
effect
here that
just right.
they've done in Harry Horsen and Godzilla, where you've got the layers of what's on the screen, but the way they're doing it's just become more advanced and a bit more seamless, so it's more convincing.
We kind of when we spoke about T2 months ago, I believe we had briefly mentioned Jurassic Park as well. I think those two movies stand as shining examples of getting the mix right between CGI and still using traditional practical effects. It's just you got that blend almost perfect.
Yeah. And you've got to use, particularly in this era, I mean, anything before the year 2000 as far as CG stuff, you've got to use it in the right kind of shot and framing and the right kind of colors. So, like when you see the T1000 and Terminator 2, when he melts into liquid metal, we see like fire and reflective pools, but we're not having too many other things off to the side that pop you out of it. We're seeing like, well, even now, if you muck around with these AI image generators, they can make some really nice CG textures. Some of the human skin stuff is still the old Silicon Valley, but if you want to make cool action figures with realistic textures, including fabric clothing, they look really cool. And the same way, the CG stuff for this era could do certain textures and stuff really well, but you want to stay away from trying to do an overly realistic human face or extreme close-ups on faces and things like that. For that, you're going to use a model or, you know, miniature.
Yeah, but for what they were doing here at the time, within the context of this movie, they more or less nailed it
Oh
perfectly.
yeah, they did.
To the point
And it
where
wasn't possible even 2 years before this. It was just, at the time, it was the cutting edge. It was the newest thing as far as the animations combining with the practical effects and model building and all that.
they nailed it so well. This and look, I'm not trying to cause controversy or anything, but it looks so good that like all these modern Jurassic World movies, like that trilogy of movies that's been released over the past 10 years, like
Yeah.
nothing in those movies, in my opinion, looks as good as the effects in this film. You know, that's just my
Yeah,
opinion. I think
we've gotten so used to seeing such smooth animation in video games and movies where so many modern movies are just like video game cutscenes. There's no real texture to them. They're just kind of soulless, lifeless things. Whereas here, this Triceratops is a big, massive, giant puppet they've built with incredible layers of textures and paints and real colors to it. It's like it's like a rhinoceros with this leathery skin, and they've weathered it, and they put so much work into it, and the sounds, and you see its eyes, and you really feel for this like sick creature in the film.
we got some more great kind of character development scenes. So they've done their little tour of the visitor center. They've watched a video on the genetic engineering. Now they're
Yeah, they brought Joseph
sitting
Smith
down
to
to
dinner there by the looks of it.
yeah, they're about to have a posh dinner, and we get the whole debate about, you know, essentially, is it ethically right to do what they're doing here? And you know, Dr. Grant
No,
makes the
no,
point
it's
that,
not.
you know, all of a sudden we've got these prehistoric creatures living among us again. Nobody can really know what to expect, and pretty much all the scientists, including Dr. Ian Malcolm, are all kind of giving kind of foreboding kind of warnings almost about what could potentially
Mm-hmm.
happen. Whereas, as John Hammond happily dubs him, the blood-sucking lawyer is literally just rubbing his hands together because he's just excited at the prospect of how much money everybody's going to make.
Well, that's all Izzy did in Miami Vice, is run from one scam to another trying to make money. So it's like a continuation of that.
And we got introduced, of course, to John Hammond's grandchildren, Lex and Tim, who, to be fair, they have to go down in history as some of the least annoying kid characters in a
Yeah,
movie
they're
ever.
okay. I don't
They're
mind them.
pretty good. They're pretty good, I have to say. Especially in the '90s when stuff was getting a little bit, you know, dodgy for that type of thing with those type of characters. It's good having two kids that actually act like kids and, you know, just
Yeah,
suit the
they're
role
not Home Alone.
that
They're
they're
not
given.
Problem Child. They're just like regular kids.
Of course, we also learned that Dr. Grant is not fond of kids and doesn't really like
No.
spending time with them. And there's a lot of musical chairs being played, essentially trying to make sure that all or most of the adults end up in one vehicle, whereas Gennaro and the kids kind of get stuck together in the other Jeep.
They also
Beautiful,
see the
beautiful vehicles, by the way.
Yeah, I love just the regular real world vehicles, but all painted up, and they look awesome. And I'm sure there must be, just like there's people that have real Batmobiles, there's got to be folks out there that have got done customs on their vehicles like this. I mean, occasionally I see the old Scooby Doo vans going down the road all painted up, like, so there's definitely got to be some Jurassic Park ones out there.
Nice bit of attention to detail as well about how something like this probably would work, especially back then. You've
Yeah.
got a metal track in the middle of the road that the car automatically travels along. It's a computer operated car essentially, which is pretty cool. But it's exactly the type of
It's like going
thing
on a
that,
tram.
yes. So you don't need a driver. Um, the car just kind of travels along. I'm assuming it's all very green and eco-friendly as well. I'm sure John
Yeah.
Hammond was the type of guy who made sure he had as much electric vehicle usage as possible, even back in '93.
And I like all the use of the signage here, the Dilophosaurus, which they're kind of double duties there because they've got these practical props. And if you went to an actual, I don't know, museum, park, whatever, you're going to get big graphic signs like that, like a street sign that's visible from a fairly long distance. But then also they repurpose the hell out of all these little logos and symbols for the merchandise and badges and coloring books. So they got to use a lot of that stuff on just about every bit of merchandise.
Oh, and it worked. It worked. That's why we're still
Yeah.
buying it today.
Yeah.
But we're they're really good in this movie, I think. Like you mentioned at the beginning, you don't we get plenty of visibility when it comes to the herbivores. We got to see the Brachiosaurus in its full glory.
Yeah.
We're going to get to see the Triceratops now soon, but as far as any of the carnivores are concerned, we've only been teased. So we've only kind of briefly seen a little bit of a raptor
Yeah.
when they're trying to feed this cow to them, and you see the leaves and the bushes moving, but you don't actually see the creature itself. Likewise with the Dilophosaurus, everybody in the car is getting really excited to get a look of it, but then it just doesn't appear. It doesn't bother coming out,
Which
which
is
is
like actual predators. If you went to Africa, your lions and tigers are coming out at dawn and sunset because they're nocturnal, and then they're going to hunt something, hide in the grass, then disappear again up a tree or sleep or whatever.
exactly. And it's not like, your typical tourist safari where you've got all these
Yeah.
animals who are used, when you see animals who are just used to people walking past and driving past,
Yeah, they're
it
playing
becomes like
bongo
nothing
drums
to
and
them.
they're doing jazz solos for the tourists.
Whereas here you've probably got some like reanimated prehistoric lizard who like hears a car coming and he's like, oh shit, get me out of here. I'm gonna go hide under a rock.
Yeah, I do like the old gates here, which they're big, but they're a lot smaller than. But they're definitely a nod to the old King Kong gate, which have popped up on a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
films.
great visual.
No giant spider though, just the big gates this time.
And we begin to get some inklings here as well as the tour group are setting off. We're also kind of seeing, behind the scenes. We got Robert Muldoon, who notices that the weather report is saying there's going to be a bad storm coming in. You've got
Very
John
Australian looking
Hammond.
man in all his khaki, very Steve Irwin looking
He
kind of character.
is very very
And he has
Aussie
his socks
looking.
pulled right up, just like people who dress in those clothes actually do. He's got these long ankle socks that come up nearly to your knees. He's wearing these little shorts and the socks are always pulled right up.
We also hear Dennis explaining to John Hammond that later on there's going to be a short minor system outage while he runs some
Oh, technical
updates and
malfunctions.
does a few things.
I,
Just
I do
reassuring
like
him
in
that
these
everything will be fine.
scenes here, these computers and stuff, you can actually see they're all proper computers and real keyboards, and it looks like an actual, if you're a computer nerd IT person, it looks like a real spaceship V and all this shit everywhere. And you can see in there there's Macintoshes and this and that and whatever.
Yeah, he's I've worked with guys like Dennis who keep their base in a similar type of shitty
State of
condition than Dennis.
degradation.
Yeah. Like, to be honest with you, I'm more of a Mr. Arnold, Sam L. Jackson type of IT guy. I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
stress about things constantly while
Well, there you go.
smoking.
The two extremes: the organized and disorganized IT people.
Yeah. But yeah, so the tour is progressing, and they come across the sick Triceratops, which is an excellent piece of animatronic visual effects.
Oh
Brilliant
yeah,
looking
it's up there with
creature.
old Taco and Raza and Ninja Turtles too, I reckon.
Oh, it's so good, and even like we see like Kazali Sattler, she's examining the trike and trying to find out why it's sick, and she's like picking little warts and stuff off its tongue. It's such a realistic looking creature.
Yeah,
It's so
even the
impressive.
little scum in its mouth, you can see it's been sick.
And like look at the horns. The horns look like actual, like what you would see on a rhino or an elephant. It's like a real animal.
Yeah, I've seen an actual Triceratops skull in a museum, and the horns look like.
And it further reinforces what a great pickup that Triceratops toy you picked up recently was, because it
I
does
was
look
so happy when I
almost
got that, man. It's
exactly
up
like
there. I can
looks so
see him
good.
hanging up, or she hanging up on the shelf up there.
Yeah, the it's kind of been established, or Ali Sattler theorizes after checking through the big pile of dinosaur poo, or
Giant
that
poop.
the reason the Triceratops is sick is because it's eating vegetation that would be poisonous to it, and
Hmm.
this is kind of another one of those. It's like a small thing, really, but it kind of just adds an extra layer to that whole aspect of, the people who just want to make money don't really think about things, because they've went and they've kind of,
Yeah,
apart from cloning a bunch of dinosaurs, they've also cloned loads of prehistoric vegetation, and it's thrown in with loads of modern day vegetation, and they
yeah.
haven't really done their research as to what's safe or not safe for these creatures to eat, so like they're running into these type of problems as well. And you can see
And I
John
can't remember
Hammond,
if
he's
they
starting
touched on it, then, or if it's later on with the Rex and the Raptors. But it also the business with the DNA, where they put stuff from like lizards and frogs. Some of the dinosaurs end up reproducing asexually, and that becomes like a thing in the films as well.
that's right. Dr. Grant mentions this. They use DNA from some South American frogs to fill in the
Mm,
gene sequence gaps, but he had read that some of these breeds of frogs actually have the ability to change gender throughout their life cycle. So you've kind of
yes,
got these dinosaurs that everybody assumed were all female. Well, now some of them have actually become male on the sly, and they're breeding with the females, and they're starting to reproduce. So once again, their
life finds
plan
a
was
way.
not without flaw. Life finds a way, indeed, indeed. But yeah, we're starting to see there's a storm coming in. The weather's getting pretty bad. John Hammond, he's feeling a little bit down in himself. There's been a few kinks so far in the test run. He's had two no shows, one sick Triceratops, and now there's a storm coming, so he's probably going to have to end the tour early for the day. And this is all just kind of happening just as our mate Dennis is about to go cause a load of shit, because
Can
he's
I ask,
going
in the
to.
novels, is Hammond, is he more of a bastard or less of a bastard in the novel?
Well, see, here's the thing. I think he's less of a bastard in the movie, and because I don't even,
Right.
I don't really and that's just me now, just verbal diarrhea here, but like I don't really see Hammond as being, he's a bit of a kook, but I don't think he's a bad guy
Yeah.
in the movie. Like I don't think
I don't think he's
he's
malicious
misguided.
intentionally, but I think unintentionally he just wreaks havoc. And when it gets into the later films, he's just like, it's like he's got no ethics at all, like almost like a, not a psychopath, but he's got no vision for consequences of anything he does. And he comes across like Father Christmas or some old happy granddad go lucky character, and
I think like at least in this movie, and I know we're jumping the gun a little bit, but later on there will be moments of self reflection where he does
Mhm.
realize he's gone too far, and he's kind of looking at the error of his ways. But as far as being like, a bastard or a bad guy or whatever, the way I look at it is he is concerned when shit goes wrong, and he
Mhm.
wants to make it right. Whereas, say, the guys, when they bring in villains in the later movies, they're usually like kind of straight up company guys who are all about like, let's make money, let's, you know, sell dinosaurs. At least with the John Hammond character in this movie, there's at least the illusion or his own delusion in thinking that he's doing something good, even if he is causing havoc and getting people
Yeah.
killed as a side effect of that. But yeah, Dennis, he does his thing. He runs the program. It shuts down everything, and he sneaks in and starts nicking the DNA. And we see in that nice shot there, we see Tyrannosaur and Velociraptor, and there's actually all sorts. If you want to be a nerd about it and actually look at the frames individually, there's
Yeah,
tons of
there's one
dinosaurs
under the film and
listed.
that, and the DNA and the.
Yeah, because you see like Stegosaurus and loads of stuff that you don't get to actually see in the movie. So
At least the
Dennis, and
sequel's
of
got some
course,
Stegos in. I was happy.
so he does this dastardly deed, but of course he's done it at the completely worst time he could possibly do it, because
Worst time.
now we're slap bang in the middle of the storm. The power's being shut off. The
And he said there's
sewer,
computer viruses, so they don't know what he's up to.
exactly, where the jeeps have stopped, they've stopped right in front of the Tyrannosaur paddock as well, so they're stuck there. And Dennis, who's making his escape at the same time, he's gotten himself a bit flummoxed because he's driving in the wind and the rain. He can't see where he's going, and he accidentally takes a
Yeah, they get
wrong
lost.
turn
Goes sliding down the
and
hill.
gets lost. Exactly. But yeah, we're brought back to outside of the T-Rex paddock, where it's gotten very dark and very stormy, and we see and we hear this
Perfect
great
weather
moment
for
of
a mix of
the.
CG and practical models.
It is perfect.
James
It is
Cameron
just,
style.
oh yeah, you know, it's gone dark. We've got the right light setting. Get that great moment of the water vibrating in the cup as well, which
Yeah,
is
that's
just
great. And that was parodied
we
in ads and comedy stuff. And
we should probably mention as well, just because we kind of glossed over it there, when they
Mhm.
were sat outside the T-Rex paddock originally, they had tried to tempt the T-Rex over by raising a goat out of the ground to try and
Yeah,
tempt it for feeding time, but the
wasn't
Rex no
interested.
showed. Whereas now, well, let's just say the little goat is about to reach his end of life because
It's
it's feeding
also
time.
showing the intelligence of the reptiles too, that it's not coming out just because they wanted to. It's going to hang back and look and see about threats, or if is this thing, like whether you're a predator or a prey animal, a lot of the animals' instincts when they sense anything around, is this something that can kill me or is it something I can eat? That's like a lot of their day. So even a T-Rex is going to be thinking the same thing. Is this something that's going to kill me or something I can eat? I'm going to hang back and investigate and, come back and see what it's about.
The scene was proper edge of your seat tension stuff when I watched it in the cinema for the first time. I was
Oh,
literally
yeah.
just like, I couldn't
And all,
believe
all
what
the
I was
all the
watching,
bassy sound too coming on those cinema speakers.
because you get that kind of note of terror when the leg of the goat hits the top of the car, and you kind of see the blood running down the window. And then we get our first proper look at the Rex, who just like rips his way through the fence like it's absolutely nothing. We hear some great sound
Yeah,
effects, kind of
like it's
wires
just a
coming apart, and
toy fence.
yeah, and that's
And
you
they
know,
get
look,
the full
it's
shot
a
where he
design
jumps down
flaw.
and roars right in between the Explorer vehicles, and that was just a awesome cinematic moment because you get the full sound of like, and it's like that's his Jaws moment. It's like he's popping up. Here's this big nasty creature. His hair is just gonna ruin your day.
Look, looks so good, so good, and like you said, it's the perfect blend of practical effects and CGI, because yeah, the moments obviously where the Rex is kind of walking and in between the cars, it's
Mm,
CG'd, but we also get this massive animatronic kind of creature who's hitting off the side of the cars, who's knocking them from side to side, pushing them
And the
over.
way it
We've got
moves
the
is amazing. It's not just about advances in animation as far as, well, we can make them move. It's the way the muscular caricature hangs in a realistic way, like the meat hanging off the skull and has weight to it and momentum and physics and movement to it, like most video games do, with kind of ragdoll effects and all that. So when he actually swings around and smashes his head into the car, it's believable because he's got momentum and weight and movement to him that makes sense. It doesn't feel like a cartoonish thing. It feels like this thing's big, it's heavy, it's mean, and it's just gonna like just tear them to pieces.
Yeah, it's and like you said, it's like how a real animal would move. Because even
Yeah,
he doesn't just go over to the car and like tip it over the way a person in a suit would. Someone
he
wearing
like
a costume. It's
investigates, kind of sniffs it, and
yes, and even the way he uses his head and neck as a weight to
mm.
get momentum to actually tip it over. So there's an actual logic and realism to how the Rex moves as a creature.
And that was a big thing for this movie, not just in the effects, but going back to your sort of 1800s, early 1900s, a lot of your early scientists, paleontologists, the way they put skeletons together, it was a lot of guesswork, and they did the best they could, the best they could with the information they had at the time. But science at its best is always progressive and trying to move forward and explore new ideas and new theories. So some skeletons often were combinations of 2 or even 3 different dinosaurs put together in a wrong configuration, and they come up with weird postures, and they used to theorize, well, they're reptiles, so they must be slow moving and they must stand in a certain way. So films of the 50s and 60s reflected that. But then as science advanced, particularly, the paleontology, they said, well, no, for something, skeletons like this, it basically would move in these sort of ways, like a cat or a dog. It levels out, counterbalances with the tail and the heavy head. And it might run like a tiger or a leopard in a very short distance, but then get exhausted and probably have to lie down for a bit before it can do something else again. But yeah, just the way it moves is just amazing. I just love it.
It's a brilliant shot as well. A great still you have here, and
Just
yeah, of
that eye
course,
staring at you, man. It's like, oh my god, it's like you shit your pants.
because you've got so much chaos going down. So the kids
Like
are
the kids are
freaking
just
out.
about to be eaten here after it's ripped all the undercarriage of the car, the windows are smashed, the tires are gone. He's going to get at these kids or kill them from crushing the car. And Dr. Grant knows he's got to do something, but it shows also that he's got balls. He's not going to sit back and do nothing.
Yes, and because he's not like the cowardly lawyer who legs it and runs to the
Cowardly
toilet
lion,
to
cowardly lawyer.
escape. And yeah, we get this. It's established here that but now look, and once again, I have no idea if this is scientifically accurate. There's probably no way to really verify it is
Mm-hmm.
anyway. But it's established here that the T-Rex's vision is based on movement. So Grant is able to
Well,
use the
most
flare.
predators are based on movement, not on finer details, but on movement. So I mean, you can see it in your own house cats and that, the way they track and follow stuff.
Yes.
So I think it's pretty damn accurate, even though we can't prove it one way or another.
Well, one way or the other, it's a great plot device because he's able to use
Yeah.
the flare to distract the Rex over and to move away from the kids. Of course, poor Ian Malcolm tries to do the same thing, but he's not as quick to dispose of his flare. And unfortunately, the Rex does not lose sight of him as he legs it away. Yeah, it's just an unbelievable sequence of events unfolding here.
Yeah, and it
The
is
way the
real
Rex
like sort of
chews on the
horror
tires.
movie conventions too, like the lighting and the tension, and it's a very Spielbergian scene as far as not just Jaws, as far as you've got literally a fucking Jaws on legs on land here, but going back to like Duel, the one with the truck film, and some of his
Yes.
other early stuff in the 70s. All the tension, the ratcheting up, the tension's going up, it's going up, it's going up. There's a little bit of a release, and then it goes up again, a little bit of release, and it goes up again. And it's just, oh man, it's just so hectic, and you just like your blood pressure's going up, your heart's beating out of your chest watching this scene.
Such
And
great
those kids trapped in the car, just
practical,
pure terror, man.
pure terror and amazing kind of practical effect and stunt work. I mean, with the whole situation of the Jeep being pushed over the ledge and them just
I like the
swinging
way
out
it
of the
captures
way
in
at
the
the last
trees,
second.
very realistic.
Yes, and because it doesn't just, once
I've
again, if
seen
this was a
cars and
modern movie,
trees. They've
yeah,
gone off
if
cliffs. They're just like that.
that shit gets wedged, it's not going anywhere
Mm,
until
no.
the tree can't support it anymore, and then it's
Yeah.
going wherever it likes, which we do get to see in this movie. But we also, while all this is going on, poor Dennis, he just has some awful luck. So we
Bad
mentioned
day.
earlier he's gotten lost. He's off the beaten track. He's accidentally wandered into the Dilophosaurus area while he's searching for the docks. And we get a funny moment where he comes across the baby Dilophosaurus and he's trying to get it to fetch the stick, but the dinosaur's not playing the game, and he's like, "Oh, you're stupid. No wonder you're extinct." And he goes back to the Jeep and he's just about to get set up. And next thing, another Dilophosaurus pops his head in the window, and this time
Oh
we
yeah,
get the
forget that
full.
it's two different ones. Yeah.
It's two different ones, yeah, and we
Mm.
get the full thrill effect. Now, this was the most like the whole movie blew my mind the first time seeing it, but this moment always
Yeah.
stuck out for me as being one of the most coolest but also scariest moments in the movie the
Hmm.
first time you watch it, because it just feels so claustrophobic when he's sitting in the Jeep. And look, it's right beside him, like it's right in there in the valley, and the frills are like shaking and he's
Yeah.
just hissing. It's just yeah, it's horrific. And poor Dennis, he gets spat on and eaten essentially. We also get a little shot of the can of Barbasol with the dinosaur DNA falling out of the
Oh,
pocket
isn't it?
and rolling
Oh, yeah.
down the kind of waterfall and getting covered in mud.
Yes,
And
that's right.
I distinctly remember when me and my friend were watching this movie on video about a year later, maybe 2 years later, and we were both talking about how if they ever do a sequel to this movie, the sequel is going to be about somebody finding that can of
Yeah,
Barbasol
yeah.
with the dinosaur
All the
DNA.
sequels are.
I was convinced though that was going to be the actual, like whenever we see Jurassic Park 2, whatever that will
Mhm.
be, that the opening moments of that movie will literally be some guy finding that can of dinosaur DNA in the mud. And
It reminds me a
I
lot
just
of the
thought,
Metal Gear Solid plot. There's all human genome and clones, and then but then if someone else gets a hold of this research data, guess what? It's going to be all over the place.
because they took the time to actually focus on it. Like you do get the shot of the can falling and being kind of covered in mud. So it's almost like they want you to think about the fact that this can of
Yeah.
dinosaur DNA is just sitting there. But nothing really ever comes of that particular can of dinosaur DNA. It's still sitting there somewhere.
I don't know. I played Dino Crisis, man. There's mercenaries and people running around all over and lots of different islands, and who knows what could happen.
Yeah, who knows who could stumble across it. So we cut back to the aftermath of the Rex attack. The jeeps come down from the tree. Dr. Grant's managed to kind of rescue Tim and Lex, and they're going to begin their journey across the park to try and make it back to the visitor center. But in the meantime, we've got Ali Sattler and Robert Muldoon who've arrived at the scene of the Rex attack, and they're seeing like wrecked jeeps, and they find Ian Malcolm and he's all fucked up. They find body parts of Gennaro strewn all around the place, and they're just loading Malcolm into the Jeep Wrangler when all of a sudden the Rex reappears, and we got a great
Yep.
chase scene. We also got you got the great still there of the mirror where it says,
Objects in
that
the mirror.
visual guy.
Closer
Yeah,
than that.
objects in
Yeah.
the mirror.
It's like
Yeah,
we know
wow.
that. It's right there. It's trying to eat you.
Yeah, this is another kind of one of those tense moments the
And
first
I
time
get
you
the
see it,
sense
where it's
here
like,
it's not so much trying to eat them as like it's annoyed that it wanted to get some food and the other lot got away. Now you're in its territory, you're just pissing it off.
yeah, with your jeeps and your stupid loud engines,
Yeah.
just get out of here. Because yeah, they put the pedal to the metal and they get the fuck out of there, as anybody would in a situation like
Yeah, it's a
that.
cool follow up to the scene because we get all this crazy carnage with the T-Rex attacking and then the vehicle falling off and a bit of a brief reprieve and then it falls out of the tree and but they're somehow alive and but then all of a sudden we get Ed Malcolm that getting rescued but also chased. And we're going to go do a break in a moment, I think. And I have prepared this little presentation for the break, otherwise known as an ad block of some Jurassic Park ads. So it's got some cool, fun retro ads that run for about 4 and a bit minutes. So if anyone's watching this in retrospect and wants to skip ahead 4 minutes, you feel welcome to if you want to just skip ahead again. But we're going to do an intermission and come back in a minute.
Get ready.
Hold on to your butts.
The adventure begins all over again.
Look out! No!
Be the first to get your copy of Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park. Now on video cassette.
Something big is coming to McDonald's. Something of such enormous proportions. It could only be called the Jurassic Park Extra Value Meal. Okay, let's eat! An enormously juicy triple cheeseburger with fries and a medium drink in one of 6 free Jurassic Park collector cups. The Jurassic Park Extra Value Meal. A dino-sized value for a dino-sized appetite.
Hey, where's mine?
What you want is what you get at McDonald's today.
All right.
Take.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Hold on to your butts.
Where extinction ends.
Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Adventure begins. A Steven Spielberg film.
Clever girl.
Jurassic Park, now on video cassette. Get a $5 rebate with required purchases of Jell-O, ready-to-eat pudding and gelatin snacks.
Well, in case you've missed it, there's another big event this weekend, aside from the Tory Leadership Convention. Today is opening day for Jurassic Park, Steven Spielberg's prehistoric mega movie. 65 million years in the making, Jurassic Park will show you dinosaurs as you've never seen them before. But as Primetime's David Gilmour tells us, some children may not like what they see.
Today is the opening day of Steven Spielberg's film Jurassic Park. The adaptation of Michael Crichton's pulp novel about dinosaurs run amok in a modern-day theme park has got a lot of people all whipped up. Audiences smell a box office smash.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Dinosaurs induce an odd frisson. Perhaps it's because we study them when we're little, when our imaginations are transportingly vivid. Yet dinosaurs, for many anyway, aren't really scary. They seem too big, too clumsy, or at least they did until today.
You feel that?
Turn the light off. Turn the light off.
Turn the light off! It was scary. I was scared.
9-year-old Jacob Lipsy saw a preview of the movie. It wasn't what he expected.
I was expecting a little child's movie. I mean, the little dinosaur kind that goes stomping across the screen and squishing people with yelling in the background. But this movie was not like that. It was a horror film. A total horror film.
Cineplex Odeon Vice President Howard Lichtman points out that the film rating is not marked family.
It's parental guidance, frightening scenes, which means you're not going to see blood and you're not going to see sex.
But you are going to see an avalanche of toys and trinkets and games, all sorts of goodies to buy now and cart to the basement later. And just imagine where the little ones will want to eat after the movie.
Something big is coming to McDonald's.
McDonald's says it's aimed at adults. I don't know about you, but I'm not interested in a reusable dinosaur cup.
Patricia Best is a business journalist.
I think there's a huge mixed message here. The subject is dinosaurs. That's a children's subject. They love dinosaurs. But the movie is a violent movie. It's a gory movie about killing. And many of the products, and there are 1,000 of them that are being merchandised with this film, are aimed at young children.
It's a risky business marketing a movie and a product at the same time. Sometimes the movie can bomb, and so does the product by association. Sometimes the product is for children, and the movie isn't. Remember the hoopla around Batman Returns. One thing seems fairly certain, and that's that Jurassic Park is going to be a box office hit. But what's not clear at all is how it's going to play with children. If it terrifies them, that's going to enrage their parents, and an angry parent is not a good consumer. For CBC News, I'm David Gilmore.
And we're back again. Mark, I'm terrified and I need a Jurassic Park cup to pacify my terrified body.
Yeah, well, look, fuck that lady and her concerns. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing to worry about. You know, your kids are going to be fine. Seeing a dinosaur eat somebody isn't going to scar them for life, you know. It's going to be okay.
It'll be okay. Just like these Jurassic dorks, you got to giddy up, move on with life, and get on to your next scheme or next money-making operation, some DNA. One fella wants to get off the island. No, he's not too happy about it. Yeah, we're back into it.
Experience.
And speaking of merchandise, there was some on that little reactionary news. I love reactionary American news reports. They're like, oh, this highly commercial film is not what they made it out to. Yeah, it is. Of course it is. Bloody Spielberg, you know, it's going to have some horror stuff and action and whatever, as well as character moments. E.T. was scary for kids, and that was a family film. But there's some really cool merchandise in here, and it's, as far as I know, it's all fake, made up for the film, but it's still very tourist center merch, little soft plush dudes. We've got dinosaur stamps, we've got dinosaur thermos, t-shirts. I'm sure the t-shirts there are full mock-up clothes, so I'm sure they must have repurposed some of those as actual t-shirts, I would think. Not just the logo, but the kind of camo pattern colors and such.
Yeah, I was literally just looking at the shot there and thinking I would actually love a camo pattern shirt with the Jurassic Park logo on it. I have a birthday coming up. I know what to ask for.
I don't have any Jurassic Park t-shirts, and there hasn't been none in shops around here for like more than 10 years. And there's one up at the shops at the moment that is Jurassic Park, not World, but the original Jurassic Park. And it's just that T-Rex, the head facing forward, and it's got the gates and it says Jurassic Park. And it's a decent shirt, but they're selling it with some bloody baseball cap or pajama set or some shit. So instead of being $10 or $20, it's like $30 or $40. And I'm like, I don't want the cap and the pants. I just want the t-shirt. So I'll wait for it to go on sale. If it doesn't, forget it.
We got a lot going on here as well to unpack. So as we mentioned before, our product placement commercial break, we get to see the brachios again. We got a nice moment where the brachio is getting fed and also comically sneezes on Lex.
Yeah. Here we got the
tripping and dino snot. That was actually how Pandemic started, believe it or not.
I thought it was when Uncle Fester farted through the keyhole.
But anyway, we also get this this realization that we spoke about a little bit earlier, where Dr. Grant is kind of theorizing about how the dinosaurs are reproducing because they stumble across some hatched eggs in the forest while they're making their way back to the visitor center. So Dr. Grant has a theory about them by using the frog DNA that the dinosaurs have managed to reproduce. We get great, like I'm telling you, man, right now, as far as movie characters go, Mr. Arnold in this movie is like my spirit animal. Anybody who's ever worked with me, like in a professional environment where there's money on the line and I'm tired and I'm pissed off, like I am Mr. Arnold in this movie. Like, and I can just see by the look in his face, like he's just so pissed off. It's like Dennis Nedry, this fucking bastard, has just went and fucked everything up, and now I'm the guy who has to fix things, even though I'm not paid to do this. I'm only the guy who, like, does a bit of system admin in the back.
You got computer virus. You got to do manual hard reset with toggle switches and run out to little bunkers and reset fucking switches and shit.
He just goes great this line because like he's trying all the different passwords and trying all the different stuff, and then the little picture of Dennis Nedry comes up saying you didn't say the magic word, and Ray Arnold's like, I hate this hacking crap. Of course, we got so he has to do full shutdown, which knocks out the power completely, which will also knock off the power to the Raptor product, which is important.
And the electric fences.
And then yeah, so someone's going to have to go switch that on later. Spoiler alert. And then we
Thanks,
get
not me.
yeah, not me. Oh, I'm too late. Sorry. There's we get this great outdoor daylight sequence of the Gallimimus, as
Yeah, they're running.
Tim so eloquently
deer
puts it. The Gallimimus
panicking.
are flocking. Yeah, flocking this way. We get some, once again, just this real kind of natural world vibe of this is how a big predator would hunt, and we, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
the Dr. Grant and the kids are taking shelter kind of in a knocked over tree while all the Gallimimus are running over them, and next thing we see the Rex just come out of nowhere and pick one off and kill it and have a nice little bite to eat, as he's one to do.
Yeah, it reminds me also of Jurassic Park 3, where it stumbles out and we get the Spinosaurus. It just kind of comes out of nowhere all of a sudden, and it's just right in your face.
Now the planning and the plotting begins because Mr. Arnold, my hero, has gone to switch the power on, but he never came back. So we hope he's doing well, but we don't know just yet what's going on. We get some planning and preparation. It's decided that Robert Muldoon, who, by the way, we've kind of, like, I know I've mentioned him once or twice, but this guy, total fucking badass, great character.
Oh, it's great. Right.
Awesome, like just a badass hunter. He's got his Spaz 12 gauge
Like hunter
shotgun.
and tracker.
Yeah, just a cool, and he's if it's one thing in the books, his character is given a lot more kind of time and, you know, lines and storyline development, but he's still a badass character in the movie too. But anyway, it's decided him and Ellie are going to go. They're going to go and get the power back on. On their way there, Muldoon realizes that the raptor paddock has been opened and that the raptors are on the loose, and he's already speculating that they are currently being hunted. So he advises Ellie to essentially leg it, get to the power bunker, and he's going to go and he's going to kill the raptors himself. So we got a few different things then happening at once. We've got Ellie rambling around this bunker. She's going to start switching on the power. At the same time, we've got Dr. Grant, Lex, and Tim, who are going to begin climbing over a fence that is not yet electrified, but which is very soon going to be.
Will be.
And also, though, we have the brilliant scene of Muldoon. He's stalking one raptor. He starts lining her up. He starts like taking back the stock of the gun and lining up the sights. And just as he's about to pull the trigger, the leaves part, and there's another big ass raptor staring right in the face. And Muldoon just looks over and he just says, "Clever girl." And just as he's about to turn around to take a shot, the raptor just dives on him. And it's pretty brutal because the way the camera cuts in a way that, you know, the bushes keep getting in the way of what you're seeing. But also, we do get to see very briefly that the raptor's jaws are just clamped down completely on Muldoon's head. So you know he got a bad doing right there.
Yeah, they got those jaws and they got the big claws, so they would just tear you to pieces in seconds.
Oh, big time.
You'd be thinking, I'd rather be torn apart by wolves than raptors, I think.
So while poor Muldoon is getting ripped to shreds, Ellie has successfully managed to get the power on. Unfortunately, by turning the power on, it causes the fence that the Dr. Grant and the kids are climbing over.
Tim goes for a trip.
Electrified. Tim goes for a trip. He gets absolutely zapped right out of it. And of course, Ellie Sattler's jubilation is short-lived as well, because as she's celebrating and kind of talking into the walkie-talkie, telling John Hammond that the power's back on and that they're back in business, a hand slaps her on the shoulder and she's like, "Oh, Mr. Arnold," and then she turns around and it's the whole severed arm and there's a raptor in the bunker with her, and it's just a brilliant moment of her being chased out of the bunker by the raptor. So all things are coming together. Yeah. Oh man. Oh yeah. I have.
Was it as fun for you as it was for me? Where it's like, boom, it just jolts your whole body.
It jolts it, and I've had ones where it felt like my bones were snapping because I was a really, we're getting totally off topic here, but I was a really stupid kid and I used to do stupid things. Like one time,
I had one where my whole back just went and like just flexed. And I thought someone had thrown a giant rock into my back. That's what it felt like.
Oh, you get those jolts. There used to be what was colloquially known as the bull fields where I grew up, and it was essentially a field full of these bulls farmer owned, and it had an electrified fence. And me and my friends one day like got a roll of metallic chicken wire and ran it from the electrified fence like across the ground, and then took turns running across it in our bare feet and getting electrified because we were fucking idiots. So I'm not gonna get too much more into that story, but because it's totally off topic. But anyway, yeah, poor Tim, he gets an electric shock, he falls, but it's all starting to come together now because Grant and the kids, they stumble across Ellie while she's running out of the bunker. So all our heroes are reunited briefly. So the decision is made for the kids to wait around in the visitors center and eat some ice cream while the adults run off to try and take care of business and arrange escape. But of course, we soon learn that the children are not alone in the center because there's a couple of raptors have made their way into the building.
Yeah, they get in there and chase the kids around the kitchen, and you can tell they're very intelligent, and they manage to open the door, and you can be like, oh, there's kind of memes or jokes about raptors being too intelligent, sitting around smoking cigars or reading novels or something. But I mean, you can go on YouTube and watch videos of cats opening doors. Animals can learn behavior as far as simple leverage movements. Cats and dogs can actually open a door where it's not a turning twist, but where it's a lever. It's just a matter of whacking it. So it's quite reasonable that they could actually work out something like that, even if they did it by accident and just smashed into it. But they get the door open and get in there and hunt them around the kitchen.
I have no doubt they could do it. Like my cats, they're always breaking into this room, and they even know how to like if they push against the door and it doesn't open immediately, they know that if they keep rocking back and forth, that eventually the latch is going to give just enough for the door to open. So
my cat comes up to me.
Problem.
If I'm in the shower by myself when I'm home, sometimes I'll leave it open a bit because he comes up to the door and goes because he knows I'm in there and he just wants to say hello. So I open the door and I'm like, "What do you want?" And he just sits there like, "I don't know. I just want to say hello and see you."
Yeah, they just are what they are, those cute kitties. But so yeah, we've got some raptor stalking in the kitchen. This goes back to what I was saying about the kids earlier on. Like they're very capable and not complete dopes about everything. Like they managed to trap one of the raptors in a freezer, which was good going on their behalf before making their escape. And of course, Lex, who's a computer nerd, is able
Except some
to
idiot decided to make these weird controls with simple 3D polygons that load very slowly. Instead of just a simple toggle on off, there's a stupid 3D polygon zooming in. It's like, come on.
It's such like, oh, this is what computers are like for people who've never ever used a computer. Yeah, it's so ridiculous. But yeah, because Lex is a nerd and she knows how to use Linux systems, she's able to work out that she can just go into a back end system, and switch everything on. I'm sure Ray Arnold would have worked out that eventually if he was given time and not under so much pressure.
But it would just be like a DOS prompt or something. It would be a fucking simple polygon flying around shit.
Yeah, because all like when you break it down, all she does really is she goes to a folder, then she goes to a subfolder, then she selects the right file that fixes the whole problem, But yeah, we get this. So power's all booting back on. It seems like everything's all looking well, but then there's a whole load of hullabaloo. We've got raptors are still in the building. They've chased the kids and the adults around. Dr. Grant, he did have a shotgun, man. He fires off a few shots when the raptors are trying to break into the room initially, but they hit the window, they hit the wall. Was he trying to kill them, or was he maybe like me and Johnny thinking, I can't kill this poor velociraptor in cold blood? It's just an animal. Who knows what was going through his mind? But anyway, yeah, they're cornered. Shit's about to go down. The raptors are either side of them. They're right in the lobby. We think somebody's about to get got, and then just before that happens, we literally get one of the greatest endings or closing moments in a movie ever, where the Rex just comes out of nowhere and just saves the day. grabs one of the raptors just as it's about to leap and attack, and snacks, yeah, flings it into the big pile of bones, the skeletons, and then the other raptor is enraged and goes to attack the Rex, and it's like climbing on its back and ripping and tearing at it, and we see its claws kind of gashing in. There's blood coming out, but the Rex, he manages to kind of get a grip of her, grips her by the tail, and flings her into the bones and eats the shit out of her as well. So Rexy saves the day. Sexy Rexy comes to the rescue, and all is right. The characters John Hammond and Ian Malcolm pull up in a jeep. The rest of the crew get in and they drive to the helipad and manage to escape. And we get the nice shot of the condors flying above the sea just before we get the credits. The credits, by the way, I should say, I forgot to mention at the start, I absolutely love the Jurassic Park font that they use for the opening and closing credits of this movie. It's just a really nice design. And just to go back a little bit to what you were saying earlier about John Hammond being a bit of a bastard, like even here we kind of see at the end, he is kind of looking at the amber. You can tell he is regretful of what's happened, and earlier on there had been a brief bit of dialogue between him and Ellie Sattler where he was kind of talking about the mistakes he'd made and things. So he's not like this, like we said, he's not just this eccentric who just wants what he wants and doesn't see the error of his ways. Like, he at least does have that level of self-reflection. He's not like Dick Jones and RoboCop, who's just out to make money no matter what, the fucking and kill everybody who gets in his way. Like, so at least he's he may be misguided, but I don't think he's malicious.
Yeah, I don't find him evil. It's just I don't know. It's kind of like when you're a capitalist and you go and just develop all sorts of areas and just like mow down all the forest and rip out the habitat and kill the animals and just don't even think about it. Where it's not even a consideration. It's not evil, but you could argue it's evil by proxy of just ignorance. If we're just killing things we don't even know they exist and wiping out entire species. But here they're trying to bring species back, so it's different, but it still has some of the same themes and ideas going to the sequels, ecological disaster as far as fauna and all that, and the long-term consequences of what he's getting up to.
Yeah, that's Jurassic Park. And it's just one of those all-time greats, really. It's easily in my top 10.
Oh, yeah.
I can never I can never really rank things in order, but it's definitely in my top 10. And as far as Spielberg movies go, it's Jurassic Park and Jaws are like kind of lockstep and key with me. I just love both of those movies.
I probably
Jaws
like those two, and Duel be like my three favorites of his.
We should Duel is a movie that doesn't get a lot of praise and attention. I think me and you someday in the future should do a Duel BOBA Joe show. That.
I think people into like horror and grindhouse stuff tend to like it, whereas people that aren't kind of like just don't really pay attention to it.
Yeah, it's an interesting movie. I like
Duel, and The Hitcher is kind of a similar tone as well. That's another good classic. Or Rutger Hauer.
I'd happily talk about either or both. So.
Oh, maybe it'll be a double feature later in the year, perhaps. Grindhouse double feature.
Yeah, Jurassic Park. It's look. I think it's the best of all the Jurassic movies. The first one, I actually probably I would nearly rank them in the order they were released in terms of how I feel they are. Yeah, they stack up, and for all
I
their
enjoy the
flaws,
sequels, but the first is still the best.
Yes, yeah, and I was just about to say, like The Lost World has its flaws, and Jurassic Park 3 also has its flaws, but there's still a lot of good in them, and
there's a lot of cool
I'm
dinosaurs
sure
in there.
someday, yeah, like someday I'm sure we'll tackle them. Jurassic Park. Yeah, Jurassic Park. It's an all-time classic. It's one of the all-time greats. It's the definitive
it's the most
dinosaur movie.
It's the most Spielbergian of the films, even though he was involved with the second one, and then the third one they kind of palmed it off to other people. But in terms of the structure of the plot, the effects, and everything coming together, it really stands up there as being just an excellent film on all levels. you know, great score and sound effects and all that too, as well as all the effects and good actors. And
yeah, it just hits the ground running from every aspect. It just hooks in. It's a really well paced movie as well. And I'm sure, look, I know we say this a lot when we talk about movies. I'm sure we brushed over things or didn't go into details and certain things, but we're trying to get as much in as we can, you know, to give a kind of broad overview of the plot. But believe me when I say, like, this is one of those movies, like, I could nearly give it to you line by line off by heart. I've seen it so many times, like I know it inside out. But definitely, folks, if you have like kind of watched this far or listened this far, let us know. Like, did you love this movie too? Are you a Jurassic fan? Do you hate this
buy the
movie? I'd love
toys,
to know if there's
coloring books.
somebody out there. There has to be somebody out there who does not like dinosaurs and therefore does not like Jurassic Park.
Oh,
So if
sure.
you do happen
Definitely
to be that
people out there
person,
don't like-
let us know if you happen to be that person, because I'm dying to talk to you.
Yeah, just my final thoughts on Jurassic Park is kind of, it's one of the legacy of those kind of American 70s new wave directors like your Spielberg, Lucas, De Palma, who grew up with like the 50s and 60s stuff and the monster movies and the cheesy stuff. And they genuinely love that stuff. So, you know, we got Indiana Jones and we got a Jurassic Park, which is going back to old science fiction movies and pulp movies that were done on very low budgets with basic effects. But there was a love and passion that went into those movies. And so we're getting B grade material, but with A grade production values and an A grade director is kind of like the legacy of those films and directors. Same as John Carpenter, you know, taking really kind of bottom shelf stuff, but going, I'm going to put it on the top shelf and actually make a good version of what traditionally have usually been rubbish movies.
No, spot on. And you know, look, it's clearly had a big impact on both of us. Like, we're both sitting in rooms right now that have probably too many plastic dinosaur toys in them, you know.
So where are they? They're just up there.
Yeah, like look at that big bracky there. Like, but that's what I'm talking about. You know, it's had a profound effect on us.
My camera is sitting on top of this fella.
The con, yeah. Awesome.
So it's just dinosaurs no matter where you look, really. Oh, yeah, I think we'll wind up there.
Okay, folks, take care and remember, always look for the mark of Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.